Hello, men. It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. This is Chris with the Age of Reason. Today, we're going to have a short chat about work and being a man and what it means. What does it mean to be a man? How does a man define himself through his labor? How does a man feel as though how does he feel satisfied with himself after a hard day's work? Now, I am no stranger to really brutal, shitty jobs that most people would never want to do. I have worked in lumber mills, I have worked in steel factories, I've worked in plastics factories, I've worked a lot of jobs where I have taken a lot of boo-boos and dealt with a lot of dangerous environments and just high stress, high tension, high labor, work that requires physical strength and causes me to sweat my ass. One job that I had years ago was a lumber mill, and this job was awesome. I mean, I must be a fucking psychopath because I get off on a job that requires a lot of me. I really do, especially when I become a master at it and I'm able to pretty much run it by myself. I don't know, I really take a lot away from that. I take a lot from it. I don't know if it's a pride thing or a testosterone rush. I don't know what it is, but I feel invigorated at the end of a working shift that has just forced me to exert myself beyond belief. So this lumber mill job that I had years and years ago now, this was a shitty paying job. It paid $10 an hour, and the work was long and brutal. It was a full 8 hours shift overnight, and I was the one bastard who had to take a shovel and a garbage can, and I had to go through the entire lumber mill and scoop up sawdust all night long. The physical strains were incredible. It was an exhausting job. I worked my hands, my back, my feet, my legs. Every muscle in my body was worked doing this job. And I went back every day until my ride ran out. We were living out in the sticks at the time, and we didn't have a vehicle. So when my ride ran out, my time there ran out. But I want to talk about the job. Okay, I don't know if you have ever been inside of a lumber mill, a sawmill. I never had until this moment in my life. I had no idea what to expect. So these places are gigantic, and they're full of steel beams that hold everything together. Everything runs on a conveyor belt system. And so you have this maze of steel beams throughout the building, which guide the conveyor belt to different fucking buzz saws. I mean, these saws look like something from the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. You know, you wouldn't even think they were real unless you actually thought about lumber life. I had never thought about lumber life before. And so these gigantic saw blades, bigger than a man, bigger than a 6-foot man, probably 12 feet in diameter, just gigantic, and powered by these awesome, incredible hydraulic machines. Okay, and they had there were these arms, these claws that would pick up entire trees. They were trunked. They had the tops cut off and the roots cut off. But they were entire trees, and they would take these damn things, and they would load them up onto conveyor belts, and they would strip the bark off of them and stuff. Just an incredible form of technology, and a lot of responsibility. So my job was to show up every night with my heavy-ass work boots and wear a face mask, a respirator system, because the sawdust is insane. The sawdust is, of course, right? But again, unless you've ever fathomed working in a sawmill, you just really have no, or unless you have worked in a sawmill or been to one, you have no idea the amount of just dust and particles in the air. And this shit would still get into my lungs at the end of the night. Sometimes I would take off the respirator because it would be so hot inside of it, but many times I wouldn't. And not with respirator notwithstanding, I always wound up taking in sawdust into my lungs. And I mean, it was nuts, man. My voice would get hoarse. It's a little hoarse right now. I'll tell you all about what I'm doing now later. But I mean, you had to wear a hard hat because you lose yourself sometimes when you're in the midst of these beams, shoveling with a shovel and brooms or a garden hoe, any kind of tools that you could find to pull the material, the sawdust to you to move it and dump it. If you were underneath a beam, you could rise up really quick because you lost yourself and smash your head, which that's what the hard hat's for. But I mean, I'd taken a couple knocks on a beam on occasion. So this job, which paid me circus peanuts, I mean, it paid crap, $10 an hour. This was a lot of fucking work. You had to have your balance in check because you would be scaling across the plant, walking on beams to speed things up for yourself. This job was fucking brutal, man. This system, the lumber system, is just phenomenal. Again, the technology involved, and as I talk about it, I'm seeing myself walk the catwalks above all of the sawdust on the floor and the oil spills from the hydraulics and everything else. I'm seeing it again. But this job, it left me very fulfilled, even though it was incredibly, stupidly strenuous. Okay, you had to scoop this material up, and then you had to haul it out to a fucking dump out back to dump the damn sawdust. It wasn't, there was no truck that I could get on and drive or anything. I had to haul this crap around. It was a stupid fucking job, but I was really good at it. And I want to talk about what I want to get at is what defines a man through his labor. How does a man define himself? Like, there are shitty fucking jobs. There are brutal jobs. And oftentimes many men will think that they are manly, even though they are quite weak. And I'm not talking about physical weakness. You could find a way to do I'm not a fucking muscle man. I'm fucking horribly overweight right now. But I have the balls to get this shit done. No matter how much I can't stand a fucking job or I don't like certain elements of a job, I have the balls and the nerve to get it done. And at the sawmill, they'd thrown this young man up in there, I'm not going to say a kid, because if you're over 18, you are most definitely not a kid. And if you are into your 20s, you should have started to learn to know better. This young man was, I think he was like 25. Skinny guy, goofy, kind of quirky, kind of like a, I don't know, probably like an anime nerd or something. But, you know, okay, your interests and hobbies don't define you. People think they do, but they don't. So, you know, I'm always thinking, oh, maybe this guy will pull it through. The guy wound up making it about a week or so before he quit the job. You know, he could not keep up. He was always struggling, always making exaggerated motions. Okay, like these. He was fucking ridiculously animated. So on occasion, the conveyor belt system could derail itself. All right, and I'll never forget this because the kid was so goofy. So the conveyor belt derailed itself, and he just starts panicking. he starts going, I shit you know, he goes, derail, 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 like freaking out and running around and everything. And I remember I told the boss about it, and the boss just rolled his eyes and started laughing, because it really, this young man acted like the derail was going to demolish the technology. It wasn't. It was just slippage, and it was easy enough to put back on. But this young man was freaking out, you know, this man, they, you know, 20-something years old, there's no room for young man anymore. This goofy man was just freaking out with all of his skinny, nerdy-looking glory. But anyway, he wound up quitting the job after about a week. And I kept going, of course, because my priorities are to provide for my family. I have legal obligations thanks to the child support system that had better get paid. How this guy had kids too. That's the damnedest thing of it. The guy had kids. He had babies at home, and he just quit the fucking job. We're living out in the sticks. There's not a lot of jobs in the sticks. I mean, you know, we're talking about this. This was like a village of a place to live. There was nothing. There was no industry. There was no production, no manufacturing. There was one factory. It was about 8 miles out of the way. So, where are these people who think that they're men, but are not manly? How do they prioritize their lives? What is their motivation to where one can just show up to a job for a couple days, a week, whatever it may be, and just 86 on it? Because of what? Because you're not strong enough or you're not fast enough? The bottom line is that any job, no matter how much you don't like it, you stick it out until they walk you the fuck out. And that's how I roll at every damn job. With the exception of that lumber mill, I eventually lost my ride, and that put me out of it. Okay, whatever. I wound up working over at the bar across the street later in the kitchen. Whatever. Anyway, you stick it out until they walk you the fuck out. You know, no matter how much you don't like a job, if these companies are willing to bring your sorry ass on and agree to write you a paycheck every week, or maybe every 2 weeks, whatever it may be, so long as you keep showing up in all your stupidity and all your ignorant glory, I don't see why you would ever shake a stick at that. You know, where are your priorities if you're just going to abandon ship on a job, any kind of job, without at least having something else lined up other than selling fucking drugs. So I work at this factory in town, which I've been at before, and I've always liked this damn factory. But it's a really brutal place. It's a tough job, man. They have multiple plants, and one of the plants is, I don't know what the actual temperature is. I'd say it's probably around 300 degrees, 400 degrees every day, because all it is ovens, heating up material to be put into clamps and presses later. So I'm at this spot in town, and like I say, I've been there before. I know the ropes of it. I know how to do it. You give me a couple days and I'll get back in the groove of things, and I'll be throwing completed parts all over the damn place. And that's what I'm getting. I've been there for a couple days again now, and it's all just like riding a bicycle. The work itself is simple, but it's very demanding work, okay? It's very excruciating, and it's very specific, all right? And I work with a sprayer spraying wax. So if you're not ready to be covered in wax every day that you leave, then you're not going to be able to do this job, okay? So there are things that you have to come to terms with. There are terms and conditions to everything in life, and there are terms and conditions to a job. The terms and conditions of this job are that it is incredibly hot, and it is incredibly tedious, and it will cause you to stretch your muscles as you reach upwards. It will cause you to bend down to pick up parts, and it will cause you to have to operate a spray machine to spray wax into the air, which will enter your eyes, enter your nose, enter your mouth, cover your skin, wreck your clothing, all for $11 an hour. But I don't care. I like this fucking job because I've done it before. I almost made it a year last time. But some legal shit because of child support came up and knocked me out. Whatever. Anyway, my priorities are grounded in the things that I have to take care of. Okay, I have to take care of my two children, my son and my daughter. My daughter lives with me, my son lives with his mother. Alright? I hope that someday I get to see him again. That's all something else. But we're moving on, we're sticking with the job. My priorities. I have these die-hard, serious priorities in life that must be met. I must succeed them somehow. So, I will gladly go back to a brutal factory that is hot and sticky and drives you nuts when your parts come out bad, and you gotta start spraying glue on them and everything else and try to put them back together so you can stack them up for a big fat sloppy high-low guy to come drive them away. But there was a man who was working. He was there for 2 days, maybe 3. Maybe today was his third. Maybe today was his third shift. And this is the type that it just astounds me. Okay, so the sawmill job had the type there. The type was like this anime nerdy guy. Alright, and again, your interests don't define you. So you could be like an anime nerdy guy, but you could know how to work your motherfucking ass off, and you could have high testosterone and a clear, rational mind, and be able to just get in and get shit done the way that it should be. Okay, at the job where I'm at now, this man who has children and a child support case, he quit the fucking job, and he only had 2 hours left of the shift. It was almost time to go home. He got called out for playing on his cell phone and walking away from the station. They were gonna let him stay. They were saying, Just stop and stay here and focus. And he quit, and he stayed in the break room until his ride came to pick him up after 7 in the morning. And so this is the type here who his image is not who he is. His image is the wigger type, the flat-brimmed hat, the tattoos on his arms, the wide-style shorts, the fresh shirt. You know, he was definitely dressed to impress and not to work. Tattoos all over himself, and just trying to look as tough and cool as he could. Okay, again, he's clearly allowing his interests to define his manhood, to define himself as a man. He's the type where if you say something to him, he's probably gonna fucking jump off because he's insecure in his manhood, and he's got to try to exert how tough he is. But he couldn't do this job, even though there's not a lot of work in town, and even though he expressed that he has children and a child support case to me. Where are your priorities? Where are the priorities? All I could think is that he's going to go back home to a woman who's going to keep on, telling him everything's okay. And, I mean, that's okay to have someone who will support you. I don't just mean financially. I mean, someone who's got your back. But how do you just walk out on a fucking job? The job wasn't going to fire him. The job was going to let him stay and keep working. How do you just fucking turn around and leave it? If you are an able-bodied fucking man, how are you just gonna, and you have priorities, how are you just going to walk off? Especially if there's nothing else out there. Back to selling drugs, tough guy? Maybe. Of course, I could only speculate. I certainly hope not. I do want something better for everyone, something more for everyone, but it comes from inside. Again, I have done these ridiculous, stupid fucking jobs that have paid garbage wages, that have physically, mentally exerted and exhausted me. Left me with cuts, scrapes, burns, boo-boos galore. But I've had to do these things until they walk me the fuck out. Until they say, you know what, we're done with you, you gotta go. All right, my race is ran, but never have I ever just walked out on a fucking job. Not since entering the age of reason, the age of manhood, and being aware, self-aware, and aware of everything else. Like the money system or not, you need it for now. In this realm, you need it. You don't have to like it, you need it. So you gotta scrape it up somehow. Right? What are some of the lousiest jobs that you have done before? Think about them. The lousiest, shittiest jobs, but you persevered through them at least until you found something else. Think about it. Think about the worst job, and if you stayed on with it anyways, in spite of how much you absolutely hated it, because it fucking tested your nerves and broke your feet and your legs were throbbing and everything else. Think about it. Especially if you persevered through it, if you kept going because you knew that the bills had to get paid. Every day I walk into work, and we're on overtime, we're always on overtime. Every day I walk into work and I start humming a song that I wrote called Punch the Clock. Because that's what you have to do. This is what you have to do. Doesn't mean that you're a fucking slave or anything like that. But you have priorities that must be met. So if you want to ever consider yourself a slave and you have children, you better consider your children your goddamn slave masters. And you better do what they need. And they need your ass to work. You find something. I don't care what it is. You gotta go clean a fucking shitter. You go clean that damn shitter, you know. You gotta go freaking. Hey, I've done freaking gutter work before. When I lived in New York, I worked with a man who did his own gutter business. He was a 20-year lifer at it. His own, completely self-made, and I had never experienced any kind of gutter work in my life. And I'm like, how hard could it be? You know, whatever. Have you ever considered the peaks? The grade of the peak of roofs? Oh my God. This guy is walking along these ridiculously narrow, steep peaks. No problem. Completely seasoned to it. Bees everywhere. Fucking bees, hornets, wasps. Oh. And then the hot sun. Because your prime time, of course, is summertime. The hot sun baking your fucking ass. Woo! I have done plenty of ridiculous, hardcore fucking work, and I've kept going back until I was told to go fuck myself, or I found something else. So where is a man's priorities? What makes him tick? What is he actually living for? If he just lackadaisically tries to skate through everything, what exactly is one living for? I'm not saying that you live to work. Nobody wants to live to fucking work. That's for damn sure. But you work to live. And you work to provide. And you provide because you care. You know, so like someone that you love comes to your house and you provide them a dinner, you know, or a couch to sleep on if they need, or your friendship and companionship to hang out and laugh. You know, you provide these things. Whether you realize it or not, you're providing them because you care, okay? So you have children, you better fucking care, you better provide. I don't know, man. This job is brutal, but it's nothing that I can't handle. And that's it. Because there really is nothing that I can't handle. I've been through a lot of shit, and if anything was gonna take me out, if I was ever gonna take myself out, it would have been a long ass time ago. I was taken away from my parents. I've lived in different homes. I've known the state firsthand since I was a little boy. I've seen all the uglies of this world. I've been through evictions. I've been through homelessness. I've been through the fucking whole thing. Been through living life as a drunk for a long time. Stopped all that too. I've been through it. There is nothing that I can't handle. And there is nothing that you can't handle. And you remember that. I know that if you're rocking with the reason here, you already know. But sometimes it's nice to hear it from somebody, right? You know? Because this world is madness. Don't ever let it take you out. What did Tupac say? These niggas should have killed me last year. That's the damn truth. Anyway, I think I'm done ranting and raving. This was in my head at work. And I wanted to come home and do a show about this. Because this dude, you know, you can't just keep on jumping on jobs, man. You got children and child support? Come on, man. You like wearing orange pajamas? Man, have you ever worn those orange pajamas anymore? Let us know in the comments. Let's all talk about it. Let's all talk about the shittiest jobs that you've ever had. What defines you in your mind, in yourself, as a man. You don't have to go to a shitty fucking job to be a man, that's for sure. I'm not ever saying that the job makes the man. No. What gets you going? You know, what do you persevere through? Is perseverance part of being a man? I think so. What do you think? Let us all know in the comments, not just me. Everyone who comes in reads everything, so let us all know. Let's talk about it. This is Chris with the Age of Reason. I'm signing off on this one. This might seem like a snoozer episode to some of you guys, but I tell you, I really don't just like to focus on the fucking racism and the New World Order at all times. We gotta step back from it, and let's just have a talk on occasion, right? And why do we talk? Because we care. We provide each other conversation because we care. And there are people, each other, that we don't want to see slip into fucking madness. Alright guys, I'm out of here. Chris with the Age of Reason, telling you as usual to keep both eyes, all three eyes opened at all times and pay attention. And go further. Always. Always. Keep going. Every day. I will catch you all next time. Bye.